very much. And my warm greetings to you all. And I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you very much, the Australian Greens, for organizing this event and for making all the arrangements to invite me and to make sure that we are here. And also special thanks to Senator Bob and all the Greens that who have stood with us in the most difficult times in Rwanda, who have sent letters to President Kagame, who have issued out media statements. We are very grateful for that. And Margaret Breakers, who is a member of the Global Greens Coordination. And also for the big initiative that was started here in Australia, the launching of the Friends of Rwandan Greens, which Ame Taylor here is the spokesperson. And thanks to Anna Reynolds, who was the international connector of everything. So we are very grateful for that. I am going to speak about Rwanda, but perhaps most of you know Rwanda more because of the 1994 genocide. So I will not go back to that. So I'll just move on from there. And I am chairman for the Democratic Green Party of Rwanda, and as well as the chairman for the African Greens Federation, which is a political coalition of now 29 political parties throughout Africa. Perhaps I'll come to that more. So Rwanda is a country especially in both Eastern Africa, but also mostly in the Central Africa. On in the north we have Uganda, and finally the north we have Kenya, so most of you may be knowing Kenya. And then the east we have Tanzania, and then south we have Burundi, and then in the west we have the Democratic Republic of Congo, where a lot of bad things have been happening. So since you know that we had the genocide in 1994, so the people who were responsible for the genocide, they had to move to Congo after they killed almost 1 million people. And they went with so many refugees there to Congo. It was more like a Scotch policy that they were trying to do. So they wanted that the new people coming, they should find nobody there. And when they went to Congo, then the new government, of course, followed those people there in Congo, and a lot of sad things have happened in Congo. Several people died in Congo, and also the Congolese people died, and millions of people died. And I think you have seen the recent UN mapping report, which was documenting a lot of sad things in Congo, and the UN Human Rights Commission has asked for a court to be established that can clarify and see that people who are responsible for those criminals can be put to justice. So the work is in progress, and Human Rights Watch recently issued out a statement saying that 1 year has passed after the UN mapping report and nothing is happening. So it's quite a long story, but I'll not go much into that. But as much as we need democracy in Rwanda, we also need democracy in Congo. And we have brothers in Congo. They also have a political party in Congo. They're all still suffering. I'm more going to specifically talk about the violations of the Constitution and other laws in Rwanda, which are the biggest threats we have, the lack of political space, and then the crackdown on opposition parties, and then, of course, this problem with the independent media, all the newspapers which were independent have been closed down. And then we have a big problem now that, because this is more related to the Constitution, that all the rights of the people, the freedoms of speech, freedom of peaceful assembly, freedom of the media, they're all being taken away. And these are our rights, I mean everyone's rights. They are all put into the different conventions, but they are not easily accessed in Rwanda. And then we find that in Rwanda also a special case that most of the powers are in the office of the president. You find that the office of the president has more powers than any other institutions, any decision to be taken has to have a blessing from the office of the president. So this makes other institutions irrelevant or less relevant. So find that parliament becomes like a rubber stamp parliament. You find that the justice system still has to struggle to be independent because power. We don't have checks and balances. And the democratic struggle in post-genocide Rwanda, as I mentioned, has been very difficult because after the genocide, the government has been using a lot of force to make sure that they don't stop another genocide from coming, because the threat has been there because all these people who committed genocide went to Congo and they had all the government machinery, guns, weapons, and everything, and people. So they have always been attempting to come back, and their mission was also more to commit genocide again. But that one was kind of more wake-up call for the government to become more strong and use an iron hand, make sure that in the country no one can start an opposition party. So this has eventually led a government to become an authoritarian regime, and they have controlled political space. You find that you can't easily speak, you can't have no parties, and in 2001, the former president, post-genocide president, Pastor Mungu, after he had resigned from the presidency, tried to set up an opposition party, but he was sentenced to prison, given 15 years in prison, and charged with inciting the state, instability, divisionism, and then his former Minister of Infrastructure was called Charles Nachitina. Both of them had started that party. He was also charged for 10 years in prison in 2002, and the former minister is still in prison up to now. We hope to be out next year. But the president was pardoned after 3 years in prison. That was after international involvement, but he had to spend 3 years in prison. So basically, after that period, that was in 2002, no one else ever dared to start a political party in Rwanda, because if a former head of state could be sent to prison, if your former prime minister in Australia, Gillian sends him to prison because he's starting a political party, I think all the waves would be going up here in Australia. So in Rwanda, that was a big signal, and we all had to keep quiet. So then, during that period, it was more like a transitional period from 1994 to 2003, and what happened that they had to put up a new constitution to make sure that the transitional period ends. So a new constitution was adopted, which allowed multi-party politics to start, and the political parties, no new political parties were allowed, but there were some political parties from the past which had not committed the genocide, which were not involved in the genocide. So those ones had been co-opted in the new government. So they were given some chance that they can have some structures, but only up to state level, not to the municipalities, not to the people, but so they could have only national institutions and up to the state, and that's all. So still they had no access to the population. And so they had an election in 2003, and Paul Kagame, who was before the vice president, but the Minister of Defense, and the man who was in charge of the ruling party, was the president at that time, and then he got 95% of the vote. But as you can see, 95% really was not an election, it was more as a ceremonial. And I think at that time people tolerated that. They said, well, all what we need is peace, so we don't need to go back to a war or what. So I think there was not much complaint that he got 95%, because we wanted peace and stability. So we hope that maybe after some time things would change. And well, from 2003, things democratically did not change. No, it remained the same. No one could say anything. Not until July 2009, when the new opposition party was started, the Social Party in Nairobi, led by Metre Bernard Ntaganda, who was a member of the Social Democratic Party, which is a coalition partner with the ruling party. So they broke away and started the party, And they started it December 2008, so they had some troubles, but then got registered in July. So when we saw that they were being registered, so we also got encouraged. We said maybe the government is falling down, perhaps. So then we saw, at that time, our president, Kagame, was the darling of the West, good friend of Bill Clinton, of Tony Blair, and getting international awards. So we said maybe they are going to cool down now, that since Kagame is Bill Clinton's friend, maybe he may let people start having democracy. So in August, we formed the Democratic Party of Rwanda. And for us, most of us who formed this party were former members of the ruling party. I also worked in the government as assistant to the Minister of Environment. And my Secretary General was the first chairman of the ruling party. He's the one who started the ruling party when they were way back in Uganda. So we had other people, other members and sympathizers, other former ministers, ambassadors, and others. So people were feeling that maybe the time has come and that democracy is coming up to Rwanda. So it was not easy for us because actually we faced it rough, as I'm going to tell you. But just maybe briefly to tell you that even though we started in August 2009, it was not spontaneous. I mean, we had prepared ourselves for some time. So like myself, I was chairman for the Rwanda NGOs Forum on Water, Sanitation and Environment. I was also coordinating the Nile Basin Discourse, which is a national organization. I was the director for Rwanda, and started up when I was young, Rwanda Wildlife Clubs, which was modeling students, teaching them about the environment. That was in 1999. And then we had even started the Rwanda Greens Society, which was a green NGO. So we had made preparations long enough for this. And I had also gotten involved with the International Greens, like in 2006. I was invited to Kenya by Wangari Maathai, the late Professor Wangari Maathai, I think you know her, Green Belt Movement. So we had some meetings together. And then in 2007, we participated in the Global Younger Greens, launching of the Global Younger Greens, and I was elected as a representative of East Africa, and later the Secretary of African Younger Greens. So in 2008, I had gotten more involved in the Global Greens and was elected as representing Africa. We were three people representing Africa on the Global Greens coordination. So this was in Brazil. So that was still before we launched the party. And in July 2009, I was elected as the chairman of the African Green Movement, still before we launched the party. So by the time we launched the party in August, we were very prepared. So you can see that we had done a lot of preparations for that. So it was not spontaneous. And we requested to have our congresses. So we were denied permission to have the party to be, because in Rwanda you must have permission to meet. First you have to write requesting for permission to bring people together. And the law says that you should have at least 200 people from all over the country, at least 5 people from each district. So we have 30 districts. So we had we wrote a letter requesting for permission. We did not get it. But finally we got it for having our Congress on 2nd October. And we had a written response from the Central District Mayor. It's called Nyarugenge. And then we're having this Congress at it's called it's a Kana, it's near Saint Famille. Saint Famille is a Catholic church. So I had a big gathering of 800 people. Instead of 200, we got 800. Because we thought maybe it's better to have more than a few, because if people don't come, then we would have to organize again. So we had, even we knew there were some tactics that people would be stopped on their way, and that happened. Some people would be stopped in the bus. If they know they're going to the Congress, they would stop them. So we had more people. We had arranged that. And then when you can see this, the room was full, and then I got a call that please come and pick a letter. So when we went to pick the letter from the district, you don't have permission to meet. You should write requesting for another permission to meet. And the meeting is in progress. And then you don't have permission to meet. And then you have the permission. So 2 letters contradicted. Then as we were still thinking, then police came. And our police, they act like army, so they started jumping off the car, the trucks, and people started running. Then we had to stop the meeting. And then, yes, we wrote again, requesting for another permission. And another permission was on 30th October. And this time, we got it again. We got this permission to have our meeting on 30th October 2009. And then we also got the notary public notary from the Ministry of Justice. And this time we had 1,500 delegates, 5 times higher than what was required, just to beat up all the doubts or anything. And the meeting started properly this time. And then all of a sudden, people with guns. Something happened, you don't know, then someone stood up with a chair like there and got a chair and threw it outside down, another one saw another chair like this, and then stampede broke up, and then other people entered with guns, and then they started protecting, and we had police protecting us outside, but police was not entering. They stayed for some time before they entered, until the confusion was people, women, children falling down, and people stepping on them, and get broken their legs and so on. And you can see the darkness came because the lights went off, they switched off the lights, and it was very tough. So finally the police came and they got all of those people, and that's what when people were entering. That's what St. Paul, that's where women were seated. Incidentally, in this gathering we had the American embassy was present, the Netherlands embassy was present, the Belgian embassy was present. We had several embassies which were present, but that did not stop what happened to happen. And this time around, the people, those who were arrested, like that one was the main culprit. The other one there was arrested by the police. And but what happened is that these people, they were released immediately after they were arrested. They were released immediately. That one had a gun, and that one had a pistol. And then, unfortunately, our people got arrested, rather. They were taken to the cells, and then we went there to follow them up, and yeah, some of them had spent some weekends there, and it was terrible. So from that time, the official position from the government said that we, people of the Green Party, are fighters, that we fought ourselves. So because we are fighters, we cannot be given permission to meet again because we cannot ensure security of the people. But we say it's not our responsibility to ensure security, it's the responsibility of the government. So they said, can we give a proof that we shall not fight again? We said, but the people who beat us, we know them, we gave their names, because we had made some ground intelligence, we knew where they're coming from, and we knew where they're working from, and some of them were former soldiers, others working with intelligence, others working with government, some of them were government workers. So we gave all the names to the police to help the police to carry out investigations. Nothing happened. So that process took about from November up to February. That's when we got a response from the police that's not the police responsibility to give us permission that we should request the district. So we asked the district again. The district said, please go back to the police to give us evidence that you will not fight again. So we petitioned the Ministry of Local Government to intervene, and then it was that kind of a game. So basically we denied permission, and during that period, like in January, some parties in exile, they also sent someone called Rwandan Greens. She was from Netherlands. I stayed in Netherlands for 17 years. So she came in to start a political party, and then also to participate in the elections. And then she was put also, in March we set up a coalition for the opposition parties. So the 3 parties, the Social Party Mbera Kuri and the Green Party and the United Democratic Forces from Netherlands, we made up a coalition. And probably the Permanent Consultative Council of Opposition Parties in Rwanda. But once that was done, then things became more worse than before, because the threat was bigger that we had the chance to win the elections. So we were threatened, I was personally threatened, and this was published in newspapers, and it was some people got information that I would be killed in 60 days, 2 months period, and it was very serious. So I wrote to the government requesting for protection. I did not get it. And to cut the whole story short, then we went to the elections now. So the election was supposed to be in 2010, the presidential elections. And what happens that none of the 3 opposition parties that openly criticized the government were allowed to participate in the elections. The Democratic Green Party of Rwanda and the FDP were prevented from registering. And the leader of the Social Party, Merakuri, was put in prison on the 24th of June, and later was sentenced to 4 years in prison. And on the same day, 24th June, we had arranged a demonstration to demonstrate against our refusal to participate in the elections, and we had arranged that at the US Embassy in Kigali. I got arrested with my vice president, but thanks to the social media, we sent me to Facebook and to Twitter, we arrested, and then the Greens, the US and Sweden and everyone all started calling the embassies and so on. So within 1 hour we got released. But the social party leader, they didn't release him. And then the other people were not released. So from that day, for him, he's still in prison since 24th June. Then the leader of the country rep for Human Rights Watch was also chased out of the country. She was denied visa. And the newspapers, all the editors of the independent newspapers had to run out of the country. They were all going to Uganda. The newspapers, I think by around April, they had all been closed. The vice president was killed. He was decapitated. They cut off his head. That was on 14th July. Then there was a journalist who was working for an independent newspaper. It's called Rwandan Greens. He was shot dead at his home. That's in June. And then I just mentioned about my red cell. And then just 2 days before the elections, I had to leave. I went to Sweden, and I've been there since then. I think you can understand why I had to leave. It was not easy, and I was lucky that I had people from the BBC, Channel 4, and others who had to escort me to the airport. I was not sure I would be allowed to leave, but we had all these cameras and the TV going with me to the airport and so on. I knew I would not be allowed, but they let me go. And then we arranged also, my family phoned me the next day. So we have all been in Sweden since then. But the situation has not been any easier. That's our vice president. That was our Congress, the one who was decapitated. And as I mentioned, right now there's no single opposition party in Rwanda. You are either in prison or in exile or worse. You understand? So the newspapers, all the independent newspapers, they're all closed down. The editors, those who are not dead, one of them, whose editor was, the deputy editor was killed, he has got asylum in Sweden. The others, they are in Uganda, but Uganda is trying to get them to a third country. There are 2 women journalists who are in prison now. They have written some articles which the government did not write. So one has been given 7 years imprisonment, another 17 years imprisonment. So the other newspapers in the country, it's the wordings are clear that if you want to be in the country, you have to know how to write. So they don't need to censure you. You need to censure yourself. So that's the kind of situation we have. And then, so by the time we had the 9th August elections, the president got 93.7% of the vote. And this election, of course, was not free and fair. The president had no opposition parties to compete with. He stood with his friends, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament from the Social Party, Social Democratic Party, and then another Vice President of the Senate. So they came, and another lady senator. So they came and stood with him, and they got 0.3% like that. So for us, we say that it was steward candidates, not candidates. So the president got 93%. And yeah, so they have now 1 year. So during that period, before the elections, we had a chance to meet with the Commonwealth election observers. We told them everything that was happening, and some of that we had to put it into their report, and they have made recommendations, but nothing is yet happening. So, which is still a clear signal that we still have a long way to go. And well, this is what we would like you, all of us here, to request CHOGM to do, to make sure that things can get better, to make sure that the Commonwealth countries will use their international aid or bilateral aid in Rwanda to enforce for democracy, rule of law, and human rights, especially Rwanda, because that's a language I think people can understand in power, because money is very important. And then that we should press more for the opening up of the political space, media independence. The government is concentrating more on economic development. I think you have heard about this economic story of Rwanda, but we think that it's not sustainable. If you have economic development without democracy, it cannot be sustainable to just be another Zimbabwe. And then we would like you to speak out openly against human rights abuses. It's, I think, Martin Luther will say that someone who is silent, that at the end of the day we shall not remember the action of the bad people, but the silence of the good people. So I think that's what Martin Luther saw. Yeah, we say the same, that at the end of the day we shall not remember the bad things which have been done to us, but the complicity and the silence of the good people. So it's high time that people should speak openly about these issues. And then we think there's this new program from the World Bank that they have basket fund where every donors should put money into the basket fund, and then the government uses that money for its activities. It's called direct aid. So we think that one is not very helpful. We don't say that because our country is poor that you should not support our country, but you can use other channels to support the country, maybe through projects and so on. But when you do direct aid, it doesn't help, because that's the money which again is used to abuse human rights. Yeah, and then we have people suffering in prisons, political prisoners, media practitioners have mentioned. Many people are still suffering, so we call for the release of political prisoners. And then we think that the Commonwealth, they can use this influence to influence all the countries, because it's a big group, I mean. And if you can all speak the same thing, because we just saw the commitment from the Australian Prime Minister, the last one, who said that they had to support entry of Rwanda into the Commonwealth because they believe that the Commonwealth will be an opportunity for them to press for these changes. So we think that this should not just be words, they should put this into action. So I thank you very much, and I'll be happy to get some questions from you.